Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest session of the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards 2024 webinar series. I'm Andrew Campbell-Edie. I'm the Communications Manager at the Irish Centre for Diversity, just to self-describe for those that need it. I'm a Black man in my 50s. My pronouns are he, him. I have shaved hair on my head, a black moustache. I'm wearing glasses, and I'm also wearing a thick black top. I'm sitting in front of a virtual background showing the Irish Centre for Diversity logo. Okay, so we recently held the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards to recognise and celebrate the valuable work being done to progress diversity and inclusion in Ireland. This webinar series has been devised to share insights and experience so that any learnings can be applied to your organisation or to help with entering the next award cycle. Today's session, in the run-up to International Women's Day, focuses on the Advancing Gender Equality category, and that's kindly sponsored by ESB. I'll shortly hand over to the award sponsor, and then we'll hear from some of the finalists, and then with the award winner, hopefully wrapping in an hour. That's the plan anyway. Scheduling has allowed us to be joined by Solak Chowdhury, who's the CEO for the Irish Centre for Diversity, and he'll be giving his expert comments on the initiatives we hear about today. Some housekeeping before we start. We're joined by Catherine White, our ISL interpreter for the day. The session's being recorded and will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website, which is www.irishcentrefordversity.ie. And if you just go to the events tab, you'll find us all there. Everyone is muted except the panel. But that being said, please do use the chat function and share any comments. We'd love to hear which organisations you're joining us from. And also, we have a packed schedule today, so that means we don't have time for a Q&A, but please do post any questions in the chat section, and we'll endeavour to get the answers and share them to you at a later date. So, without further ado, I'm very pleased in the run-up to International Women's Day to introduce our host for today's session, Zoe Deverell, Senior Manager, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at ESB, who will shine a light on their organisation's EDI advances and lead what is sure to be an enlightening conversation. Before we start, it's important to mention that ESB, like the other sponsors and the Irish Centre for Diversity, had no part in the judging process and couldn't enter themselves. Over to you, Zoe.
Thanks, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. We're delighted to be here with you today. My name is Zoe Deverell. My pronouns are she, her. And for anybody who needs a visual description, I am a white woman in my 30s. I have blonde hair. I'm wearing a black turtleneck jumper and tortoise shell frame glasses. And as Andrew mentioned, I am the Senior Manager for Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at ESB. I joined ESB in May of last year, so I've been spending the last year really getting under the bonnet of DEI at ESB. I've been working in the area of diversity, equity and inclusion for almost 10 years now, across both Europe and internationally, and I'm delighted to be here with you today as your host. So ESB, we're really thrilled to sponsor this year's Advancing Gender Equality Award at the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards. This is a key area of focus for us at ESB. And we recently publicly shared our own ambitious target for women to represent 30% of our total workforce by the end of 2025. And it's also really encouraging to see our ROI gender pay gap continuing to close year on year, and there's some really positive improvements in there. I'll give you a very brief overview of some of the things that we're working on at ESB to advance gender equality and to support, develop and retain women across our business. So we're really focused on increasing the representation of women across ESB and with a particular focus and attention towards our STEM and craft roles. I'm delighted to share that women made up 24% of our network technician apprenticeships in 2022, and that actually rose to 27% last year, which is a huge step in the right direction for us. We support and we encourage women at all levels across ESB to act as visible role models, both internally and externally, to show that careers at ESB are both varied and rewarding. We're also very happy to partner with several external partner organisations to really develop the talent pipeline of women for STEM education and careers. Last year, we piloted a career development program entitled Pathways to Success for women across the organisation. And this program was designed for women by women at ESB. And feedback on the pilot has been really encouraging so far. And we plan to scale that program up and offer it to larger cohorts of women later this year. We're increasing our leadership capability across ESB by embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion principles within our leadership and senior manager development programs. Our executive committee participated in a half day of inclusive leadership training 2 weeks ago, and the feedback from that was really positive, and we'll be launching similar training to each of our senior managers later this year. Last year, we launched 3 new employee resource groups, or ERGs, so gender, accessibility, and cultural and ethnic diversity. So really building on the success of our existing LGBT plus ERG. Our gender group is a voluntary employee-led group of colleagues representing each of our business units. And lastly, then, our award-winning evidence-based Managing Successful Parenting Transitions program provides parents of all genders with the tools, skills, and support they need at each stage of their parenting journey. Research shows that parenting and caring responsibilities are key pinch points in women's careers, so we offer this program to all parents with the aim of levelling the playing field. So I hope that gives you a flavour of some of the initiatives we're delivering to promote and advance gender equality across ESB. As category sponsors, we were not part of the judging panel, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from each of the finalists today to learn more about the great work underway in this area across Ireland. So our first finalist is CORE, and the team is represented today by Jill Downey. The judges were very impressed with the wide-ranging gender equality supports in place since 2017, and in particular that the organisation achieved 50% female representation at board level in 2023. So Jill, could you share a little detail on the importance to you of achieving those results at board level?
Good morning. Thanks, Zoe. I'll just quickly do a visual description as well for anybody who needs it. So I'm Jill. I am the Chief Sustainability Officer and Sponsorship Officer in CORE, which means I look after both all of our ESG agenda and also I actually lead our sponsor practice on a day-to-day basis. And those two roles are increasingly overlapping over time. I am white, in my mid-40s. My pronouns are she, her, and I have long brown hair, a little bit of blonde bits at the bottom. Yes, so that's me. So yeah, look, we entered this award with an overall concept called Project SOAR. The idea there is to be to show up for our female colleagues right through their career, so from start to finish. So we have a number of initiatives that we support there from the beginning of career, like mentorship and allowing things like life leave after 2 years service with the company, right through to 3 months paternity leave, full paid maternity leave. We have a policy around IVF and pregnancy loss. We have policies we introduced a new menopause policy last year, which has been a great success as well. A lot of people taking up the supports there. And we also introduced a cancer at work policy last year, which unfortunately is increasingly important with 1 in 2 people getting a cancer diagnosis in their career. So if we want people to stay for a long time at CORE, we've recognized that we really need to show up for the whole of the person for the whole of their career. And that's really what we're trying to do. But with all of these great supports, particularly for our female colleagues, we really wanted to, I suppose, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, as they say. And for legacy reasons, we had a very imbalanced board. And we really felt that if we weren't showing balance from a top-down perspective, it would mean that some of the other supports remained somewhat hollow, perhaps, across what we were trying to do. So a couple of years back, we were doing a new business plan, and that business plan would come to fruition by the end of 2023. And while we were planning for that, we decided we would put in the target of having a gender balanced board by then. We made that commitment without the plan, if I'm being honest. So that old phrase of build the airplane as you're jumping off the cliff was sort of the idea there. But we wanted to make the commitment. We felt it was a reasonable time frame to do it. And we also felt, so this would have been 5 years before that, we felt it would be unimaginable to not have a gender balanced board by 2023 at the time. So as I mentioned, for legacy reasons, we were very imbalanced. It was 2 female directors and the remaining 11 directors were male. So we made the commitment, and the first job was really just to get everybody comfortable and everybody familiar with that commitment. Unsurprisingly, or maybe surprisingly actually, but nobody really disagreed with it as a target, which was great. It's always a good start. But there was going to be that difficult time eventually where people would have to have conversations about moving on or off the board, depending on what was happening. So the commitment, I suppose, was the first thing, then getting everyone familiar with it as a target and comfortable with it over time. And actually that really helped, because when the transition came, it wasn't as difficult as we had anticipated. So it's probably, for me, the biggest lesson is once you set a target and once you get everybody comfortable with what you're trying to achieve and why, actually the transition to doing it is not nearly as hard as you'd expect in the end. So we also decided to go with a smaller board. We felt that would be more flexible in the future and also allow us to change over time. And then we have an expanded senior management team instead. And we also, through the commitment of making the board balanced, meant that the senior management team underneath that board couldn't possibly be anything else but balanced as well. And that's actually come to fruition. And we've seen the balance of our leadership all the way through the organisation now come much closer to parity over time. So actually the impact of setting that objective at board level has impacted across all the leadership kind of structures across core, which is great. And what else would I have to tell you? I suppose the the other thing we've had to release in our sector is the gender pay gap. We're the only company who in the advertising, marketing, communication sector that has had to release a gender pay gap due to our size versus some of the competition. And so we've also seen good improvements in those, in line with the changes in our leadership structure. We haven't eradicated the gap yet, but our plan is to do that within the next 4 years. So yeah, there's some of the things we've made and the impact of making that commitment, I think, at board level. It really has had that sort of trickle down effect across the business. And I think it serves to be great inspiration for women coming into our business at any level now, that's a priority for our business. And I can't see it ever changing, which is the other great thing. You don't usually go back from a commitment like that.
Thank you for sharing, Jill. Great to hear about just some of the things underway at Core. Quite a long list there. So congratulations. Solat, I'd like to invite you to share perhaps what strikes you about what you've heard.
Yeah, certainly. First of all, can I just self-describe? I'm an Asian British man in his 50s. My pronouns are he, him, and I've got a lot of grey hair now. I'm now known as a silver fox. Well, maybe only to myself. I may or may not wear glasses. I might put them off as well. Really, really good introduction. Fantastic to hear about some of the initiatives. It's really, really interesting. And I'd love to know even more, find out how you've gone through that process and the dynamics, actually, because we often talk about systemic inequality, and systemic inequality is fundamentally something that some people don't believe in, because they think it's just this kind of system that's created by men, and it doesn't, and there isn't a cabal of men. But actually, when we talk about systemic inequality, we talk about the fact that, for, let's say, if you start from the year dot, 2024 years of it elapsed between then and now, and actually all of that time was about the workplace, apart from the last 20 years or so, 20, maybe 25 years. All of that time was designed for, the workplace was designed for men. It was nurtured, looked after, protected, evolved for men in all that time. So that's the legacy that, you know, we have found ourselves in the last 25 years, and it's that we're trying to overturn. So the things that you've achieved there are absolutely amazing. To be able to get 50% board balance, and then the senior leadership team under that as well, the senior management team under that, is quite incredible. So I was sitting there just in awe of everything that you were writing down. I've only got 1 minute to speak, so I think that's about it, Andrew.
Perfect. Thanks, Solat. Our second finalist then today is Karina Howley from KPMG. So you're very welcome, Karina. The judges really enjoyed hearing about the role model lunches and Connect at KPMG, both fostering some really effective networking and helping women find role models and mentors in the organisation. So Karina, can you tell us a little bit about those initiatives?
Absolutely, Zoe. Just to describe myself, I'm a white female in my 50s with pronouns she, her. I have bobbed blonde hair. I'm wearing a navy sweater with some sparkles around the collar. That is me. Yeah, let me talk you through some of the things we've been doing in terms of advancing gender equality as a firm. I suppose we began our journey in this space back in 2014, so we're 10 years on. We introduced a lot of different things like role model lunches that you mentioned there, Zoe, and we heard a lot. At the time we looked at this, what we found was we were hiring 50-50 at associate level, them coming in through the door, and women were staying through to manager. But as they progressed through the senior roles, that percentage of females dropping out of the firm and leaving the firm was stark, and we had only 31% of our our directors at that time were female. So it was, you know, how do we address the gap and convince females to stay on and progress to leadership positions within the firm? So role model lunches was something as we thought would be a great way of addressing this myth around that to be a senior female person within the firm or a female partner, you had to be superhuman. So these role model lunches were hosted by female partners talking in small settings. So you'd have between 12 and 14 people offsite in the Westbury Hotel, and a mix of directors, associate directors and managers, and them hearing firsthand about the journey that particular partner took in terms of their career, in terms of having children, in terms of dealing with family situations, dealing with their personal lives, having hobbies, how they made it all work, as well as progressing within the firm and balancing everything. And they have been very, very popular over the course of the last 10 years. We still run a number of them in spring and autumn. People enjoy them, enjoy hearing the personal stories, and each one is different. It depends on the makeup of the group of people around the table. And again, it's creating opportunities for our females within the firm to network with people outside of the business units that they'd know. We also did a number of activities, like we had senior females in different industries come in and speak to our people, and again offer opportunities to ask them questions on how they progressed within their own career opportunities. Other things we did was we looked at video series around maybe International Women's Day, focusing on different females around the firm and talking about, you know, their own personal stories. We find personal stories are a great way of connecting with people and allowing people to share insights into how a female partner makes it work, how a young associate in maybe a male-dominated sector within the firm makes it work, and how they engage. Also things like we've sponsored Going for Growth since 2015. That's female entrepreneurs and how do we support them in the external world. And also we were one of the main founding sponsors of the 20 by 20 campaign. So we've put a lot of focus on females in sport. So our sponsorship of the Dublin Ladies GAA, Leona Maguire, Rachel Blackmore, to name just a few. I suppose then in 2018 we looked at how we were progressing on our gender agenda. We looked at doing a big review of our whole IDE strategy, including gender. As part of that, we've put in place a gender committee. We set targets, public targets, that 40% of females would be in the senior leadership, and that from 2025 our 50% of our partner promotions will be female. So that's the first time we've gone public with that type of activity. And then last year, as part of our International Women's Day focus, we launched a gender action plan. So looking at a new initiatives. So we introduced things like a ramp up initiative. So one paid day off for females returning after maternity leave. So for the first 8 weeks back, they would work 4 days a week, but they'd be paid for 5. So that has really resonated with our people in terms of easing back in after taking maybe 6 months to a year off on mat leave. We also introduced emergency childcare cover so that any employee, male or female, could access up to 3 days backup cover in an emergency situation where their own childcare cover might have let them down, a creche might close, a childminder might be sick, and they can avail of that. Again, very positive feedback on that. We introduced new leave policies to support people at all stages of their life. So fertility leave, surrogacy leave, early pregnancy loss leave, fostering leave, domestic abuse leave, and carer support leave. And while we know there's carer support in legislation, and you can take up to 2 years off in terms of carer support leave, we introduced a carer support leave for you could take up to 5 days a year outside of the carer support leave. And that's been great, not only for people maybe with children who might be sick and they might have unexpected leave, but people who may be caring for people within their family unit or elderly parents, etc., and being able to avail of that. We also did enhanced leadership and training programs. We introduced a bespoke training initiative for our partners, which was based on experiential learning, done in small groups of 10 to 12 people, where they were brought in front of, we did a 3-hour training session with them, where we had actors come in and act out various scenarios and looked at good and bad scenarios, and really interacted with our senior leaders to say, how could we change? How would you, what would be a good format? And we get the actors to redo it, and you know, you really could see the nuanced approach between maybe average, maybe not really bad, average to good, to being a really, really good experience.
Karina, Karina, that's a very, very solid raft of activity there. But the clock is against us, so I'm afraid I'm gonna have to cut you short there. But amazing work there, and thanks for taking us all through that.
No worries, Andrew.
Zoe.
Thanks, Karina, and thanks, Andrew. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Karina. It was great to hear all of that and echo Andrew's comments. There's a lot going on there, which is great to see. So, lad, again, I'd like to invite you to share if there's anything that strikes you from what Karina shared.
Yeah, I just think that the level of practical support there, it's just really, really excellent. I remember a couple of years back, we were doing surveys in a particular organisation. Some of the women were saying that if we ever want to have a baby in this organisation and want to be on the senior leadership team, what we'd have to do, we have to leave the organisation, go to a place with better support for pregnancy and birth, and then come back and reapply for a leadership position. This is actually excellent, because this would mean women wouldn't have to go anywhere else. They could stay at your tremendous organisation and further their career there. So I think that really stood out. Well done, brilliant work.
Thanks a lot. Our third finalist today is Paula Foizu from Glenview Properties. Your entry impressed the judges with the level of female representation you have in such a male-dominated industry. 43% female on the board and 30% female graduate intake. So Paula, how did you achieve this?
Thanks, Zoe. I'll self-describe for anyone needing it. My name is Paula Foizu. I'm HR business partner with Glenveigh. I am a woman. My pronouns are she, her, and I have shoulder-length brown hair. I'm in my mid-40s and I'm wearing a green polka dot top. Thanks to all the nominees for sharing great insights, and we're looking forward to hearing from the others, and to PM Group, who ultimately won the category. We were delighted to be shortlisted, especially given that we're from an industry which wouldn't traditionally be seen as being female friendly. We were always conscious that we were operating in an industry where there is a shortage of females, and also a shortage of key skills. We formed in 2017, so within the first year we started thinking about how we could address this and make not just Glenveagh but the industry a more attractive one for women. Not just because of the skill shortage and the fact that we'd lose out on 50% of the population if we didn't appeal to women, but also because obviously we understood the importance of diversity in being a high functioning and profitable organization. So some of the initiatives that we started were, in 2018 we launched an employee assistance program. We started looking at all of our adverts to ensure that they were gender neutral and that they would appeal to as broad a talent pool as possible. So looked at the wording and all of those, and it's something we do all the time. We ensure that the wording is gender neutral. We developed paid maternity, paternity and adoptive leaves, which we brought into effect from January 19, along with a number of other benefits. We partnered then the following year with our industry body, the Construction Industry Federation, and we started sponsoring International Women's Day. So we were putting ourselves at the forefront of the construction industry there, and it really helped us to reach women in the industry, and also women maybe not in the industry that might be interested in joining us. We started supporting other I suppose initiatives such as iWish, which is a STEM program committed to showcasing the power of STEM roles to teenage girls pre-school leaving, and we also started talking to schools as well. From the recruitment perspective, our tool allowed us, the tool that we use had a lot of functionality, and we started using anonymous diversity monitoring within the recruitment process so that we could monitor and track how the various groups were tracking throughout the process, and ensuring that, you know, there was the same proportion of, for example, females at screening stage that would reach job offer stage. So that's something that we monitor all the time, and it helps us address issues if they come up. We published our ED&I policy in 2020. We began our journey with the Irish Centre for Diversity by signing the Diversity Charter with the CIF, which was a commitment to achieve bronze standards. We actually decided to skip that step and went straight for silver. So we achieved that in 2021, which we were absolutely delighted with. And we've been working closely with the Irish Centre for Diversity ever since. That, I suppose, in preparation for the silver mark, we were reviewing all of our policies and procedures through a diversity lens, including our parental leave policy, which we introduced more flexibility to. So it allowed women and men, obviously, to maybe not just take blocks of leave, but they could take a day or a half day or even a couple of hours a week if that suited their childcare needs. And at that time as well, it was we were in COVID times, and in the middle of kind of 2020, we rolled out unconscious bias training to all managers. We also had the Irish Centre for Diversity and to deliver inclusive leadership to our executive committee, and then the following year to our senior leadership team. We set ourselves a target then, and we've done a lot of groundwork, and we set ourselves a target in 2021 to recruit at least 30% females into our graduate pool, which we've achieved every year since. And we've done that through, I suppose, positioning ourselves as a female-friendly employer. Also, we work with third-level institutions to attract graduates in. We have a STEM scholarship that we launched in 2022 for a woman in construction to come in, and we would sponsor them throughout their final year or two of college. Then we also made sure that our recruitment process was extremely transparent, in that we made sure that wherever we were having 2 rounds of interviews, so for senior roles, that the interview panel was made up of at least 1 woman on the panel. We then, as I said, we achieved silver invested in diversity in 21, and again re-attained it last year, and are aiming for gold this year. So at the end of 22 then we launched our ED&I strategy. So that was made up of the commitment to be to have better representation in our business, to develop an inclusive environment, and to use our influence externally as well. So that's on our website for anybody who'd like to read it. But the couple of the targets that you mentioned there, Zoe, that we've met and we're really proud to have met, was we increased our females on our board from 27 to 43%. We have achieved again consistently our 30% graduates, and the next target that we are looking to reach is the senior leadership team females to increase to 28%. So again, through all of the initiatives we're doing, including 30% Club with the IMI, including our female friendly policies. So again, more female friendly policies were launched last year, including menopause policy, fertility leave policy, and we are, I suppose, committed to having a workplace where women can begin their career and continue their career throughout their lives. We moved into our new building last year, our head office. We're in it about 11 months, and when we were designing that, we made sure that it was designed with inclusivity in mind. So we have plenty of booths like the one I'm sitting in at the moment. We have lots of collaboration spaces, and we also have a mother's room for moms who would like to either bring their baby or have the baby brought into them, or would like to express for the baby after they return after maternity leave. We have a quiet room which is entirely just for being quiet, and for the use of anybody that needs a bit of quiet time. And we have a multi-faith room as well here. So again, with inclusivity in mind, we have I suppose we developed a workplace that it welcomes everybody, and I suppose the construction industry has 11% females in it, and we are at 32% female here in Glenveigh. So we've done a lot of work in I suppose making it not just a workplace but an industry, I think, that is attractive to everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Paula, and great to hear about all the work underway in Glenveigh. So Lat, again, I'd like to invite you to share if there's anything that strikes you about what you've heard from Paula.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very tough sector, that one, and what you've done is quite amazing. I mean, I think one of the key things that all three speakers have spoken about so far is actually getting female representation on board. That's a critical thing in trying to change the working environment. And I was really pleased to hear that you use the word inclusive environment, because it's that inclusive environment that will make people feel included, but also that also needs to trickle down to individual behaviours. One of the things that we have come across over the last number of years, particularly in construction, is that and it's a good little hack, this one, that actually if you look at some of the job descriptions and change the job title, for instance, there was a job title that said technical site supervisor, and then we looked at it and actually we worked out it was a project manager's job. So the company actually managed to recruit an Asian female project manager from a local authority to come and work in this construction company. So sometimes it's little changes in language that can make a huge difference. But really, really good work. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Solat. I'm pleased to welcome another award finalist today, so Marie Power from Controller. Marie, the judges have told us that your revised policies to promote gender equality, particularly in the areas of parent and carer support, were very impressive. So can you tell us a little bit about these?
Thank you so much, Zoe. So just to self-describe, my name is Marie Power. I am the Director of Talent and Culture within Controller. I am a white female in my 40s with brown hair and turquoise shell glasses, wearing a black jacket, and my pronouns are her and she. So we're relatively early on our journey, I would say, from a diversity and inclusion. It was only back in September, actually, that we launched our Advancing Gender Equity strategy. And the purpose of that strategy was to create equal opportunities, remove barriers, and in turn level the playing field. And under the support pillar of our strategy, we committed to review all of our key policies impacting on gender equity. And that resulted in the creation of 11 new policies to level the playing field within Controller. Among the policies we introduced were a phased return to work policy for new mothers or primary caregivers to ease those initial few months back into work. So primary caregivers can work 80% of their regular schedule with full pay for up to 3 months after returning to work. And following the initial 3 months, they can keep their reduced schedule for an extra 3 months with proportional pay. We also acknowledge that the journey to becoming a parent is very different for everyone. So we have revamped our policies to better support employees who are adopting or using surrogacy to grow their families. So both of those policies are now aligned to our maternity leave policy, which provides for 26 weeks paid leave and 16 weeks unpaid leave. We've enhanced our breastfeeding policy, providing additional support for mothers returning to work, so providing 1 paid hour per day off during the first 2 years of your child's life. And we also understand that there are challenges and there is highs and lows that come with fertility treatment, and we want to provide our people with the support they need as they go through that journey. So that's why we've also implemented a fertility and assisted reproduction leave policy. And any employee who's undergoing fertility treatment is eligible to take up to 10 paid days off per year. And if their partner is undergoing treatment, they can take up to 2 paid days off as well. And when it comes to carers leave, in our most recent DEIB survey, we found that nearly half of our demographic have caring responsibilities. So we recognize that these additional responsibilities can take a significant toll. So we expanded our carers leave to include leave for medical care, which provides for up to 10 days per year to deal with serious medical care for a child or other relevant person. And this policy complements our long-term carers leave and force majeure leave policies. We also expanded our compassionate leave categories to include support for those experiencing early pregnancy loss, so up to 10 days per event, failed fertility treatment, surrogacy, or adoption, again up to 10 days, and domestic violence situation, as well as increasing leave for the loss of a spouse or child for up to 20 days. And on top of all of that, we also incorporated menopause and menstrual leave, because we recognize it's a natural part of life and it's increasingly less taboo. I suppose it's really important that we begin to talk about women's health, and we want to create a culture where we can talk more openly about the symptoms of menopause and menstruation. So now employees within Cartrawler can take up to 12 days menstrual leave per year and 10 days menopause leave. So this is having a huge impact across the business. On top of all of that, we've introduced Women in Leadership Initiative, which is a whole program dedicated to supporting and developing our females across the business. We have launched a fabulous initiative called Code First Girls, where we currently have 20 girls training internally to become coders, and we will offer a number of them the opportunity to move into junior engineering roles post their training. And then we've been doing, and also we were really excited recently to work with the Irish Centre for Diversity and receive our Bronze Award. So we're really excited. We're early days. We're really excited. We're about to launch our new DEIB strategy on International Women's Day. So really exciting times ahead for us in Cartrawler.
Right, thanks for sharing, Marie. Great to hear about all that's underway at Cartrawler, so thank you. Solat, what strikes you about what you've heard from Marie?
Again, just the level of practical support. I mean, that ultimately that's what people need: practical support, and particularly around women's health. And I was really pleased that you mentioned about domestic violence as well. Significant problem in our society, became even more significant during the lockdown when people were locked in with their abusers. So the level of practical support, the policies, the 26 weeks paid and the 16 unpaid weeks of leave must be a great source of support for women who need that time off and want that time off. It is what is arguably one of the most precious times in our lives, with the smallest of human beings. So well done, really great work.
Great, thanks Solat. Our fifth panelist today is Allianz, and the team is represented today by Natalie Keogh. I can tell you that the judges were impressed by the Female Leadership Action Plan put in place by Allianz. So Natalie, could you share a little detail on that and the results that it's achieving?
Of course. Thank you for that, Zoe. And thanks for having me today. It's been an honour, and it's great to hear from all the other panellists and finalists. To self-describe for those that need it, I'm a white Irish female. I've long brown hair. I'm wearing a red top today. I'm in my kitchen and it has a blue background. So for Allianz, our journey for gender equality has been on the cards for a number of years. We've been working away quietly in the background before we realised we always knew it was the right thing to do. So before D&I was as prominent as it is now, we have been laying the foundations, particularly in gender, which is great. So like some of the other industries, like Paula mentioned earlier, the insurance industry is also quite a homogenous group. There's not a high level of turnover in the insurance industry, and it comes from a technical base. People have 20, 30, 40 years. It's not uncommon. So when we're looking at our gender equality, we have 53% females in our organisation, which is great, but we are 38% at top leadership. So we are 30% at board and board of management, so our C-suite, which is great, and we're almost nearing 50% for our junior and mid level management. So we have very ambitious targets. We are a founding member, a signatory of the Women in Finance Charter. So we have signed up 3 years ago, and we have public commitments that we have stated and that we're working very hard to achieve. So it is really, when we're looking, again, as some of the other panelists have said, it's about all stages of the life cycle. What are we doing to attract? What are we doing to retain? And what are we doing to promote? So we have looked at all, it's our target culture is inclusive meritocracy. So it is a fair and equal career for everyone. So we look internally, and we're also doing work with our partnerships. So our Women's Aid Partnership, domestic violence was mentioned there. So our vision is securing your future, our mission statement. And that was very prominent for us. So when we were choosing a charity partner in 2020, that's when, with the lockdown and the terrible statistics that were coming in, when we were looking at a charity partner, that's something we said, we can do something here, we can make a stand, and we've had a very powerful campaign and a long 3-year partnership, and we've renewed that for another 3 years. So it's about making a difference in our own corner in the world, but also our society at large. We are involved in the Insurance Institute Task Force, Inclusion Task Force as well, so trying to change the face of the industry. So we're trying to do our own bit within our own sphere as well, but also within the industry and then at a societal level, which sounds grander than it sometimes is. Sometimes it's just getting started and having the right intent. So for ourselves, in terms of looking at developing our females, we have a 50% talent nomination. So, and then we have for our talent program, we have for all our strategic roles, that we have to include at least one female in each of that for the succession planning. And when we have appointed our executives in the last kind of 2 years, I think 4 out of 5 have been females in that. So this is hard fought because, again, there's not a huge amount of turnover. So it's doing what you can, where you can, and setting the organization up for success. We also have group-wide, through the Allianz Group, we have a hashtag She Leads, and it's a female talent program. And this is looking at the next generation and giving them the tools to succeed. Again, looking across all the life stages, of our career journey. We introduce menopause policy also, and menopause champions, and some practical supports as well. A game changer for us, we had been a flexible working employer prior to the pandemic, but we are fully hybrid. So we have taken a team-based approach. So what's good for one team, if it's 1 day a week or 2 days a week, there's no set minimum. And the feedback from our population, our employee population, has been hugely appreciative of this. For myself, as a working mother, I know this has been the relief of 10 years prior of trying to juggle that. So that has been something that we're really proud of, and we're desperate to hold on to, and we will. We're making it work. Also,
That's perfect, Natalie.
sorry
Sorry to interrupt again.
yeah, go
Obviously,
ahead.
there's a lot happening in this space, so everyone's got lots to share, and I'm really sorry to cut short, but
No
the
problem.
clock is against us. But I'm glad to hear that that's the rewards that you're enjoying in the business are, and that everyone else is enjoying, are so valuable. So thank you. But moving on, sorry, back to Zoe.
No problem.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Natalie, for sharing. I loved that do what you can when you can premise. I think that's something that's really important for us to keep in mind, because there's a lot. We can't boil the ocean. So Lat, again, I'd like to ask you what strikes you about what you've heard from Natalie?
I think the thing that stuck out to me was really the talent program and looking at the next generation. When we talk about that in systemic inequality, it takes around about 4 generations or it'll take around about 4, maybe 5 generations to overcome or overturn some of that systemic inequality that we've suffered for all those centuries. And actually, we're about a third of the way in. So it's quite exciting times in terms of equality across the board, but gender equality specifically over that next 2 to 3 generations. So I think that really stuck out, having that, looking at the next generation and looking at succession planning. So that's really encouraging. Well done. Great work.
Great, thanks, Solat. Our last finalist today is our winner, so PM Group, represented today by Mairead Cummins. So congratulations, Mairead and PM Group. I'll read you a few of the judges' comments just to give you a flavour of what was said. So this winner showed an unwavering commitment to not just their employees and business, but the wider industry as a whole. This company is dedicated to the challenge of rebuilding the image of their industry from young people to board level. The entry demonstrates a successful company-wide shift away from focusing on a person's gender to supporting the person's capabilities, drive, and teamwork. So Mairead, congratulations to yourself and your colleagues. Can you please tell us about the impact of your policies and practices at PM Group?
Thanks very much. Absolutely delighted to be here, and we're still in cloud 9 with the award. Before I talk about PM Group, I just want to say thanks to everyone who shared their information today. I've been writing furiously, and I think this is an absolutely excellent opportunity to share knowledge, because we can all do different things. So well done to everybody. So like some others in this category, we're very much focused. We're very much in the engineering and construction sector, which is hugely male dominated. And sorry, before I continue any further, just I suppose to self-describe for anyone who may need it, I'm a white female in my 50s. I've shoulder-length blonde hair, and I have an image of PM Group offices behind me, and I'm wearing a black polo neck. And I was told earlier that I look like a newsreader. So if for anyone else who needs that, there is another little bit of an image there for you. So as I mentioned, we're in the heart of the engineering construction sector, so fiercely male dominated traditionally. So, we've set ourselves very tough targets since 2018 and onwards, when we formalized our program for D&I. So we're really pleased. Last year in 2023, we hit 45% for our graduate intake. And we also have different targets throughout the company at different levels for increasing the gender equality. So we, one of the initiatives we have done is obviously for the last 2 years now, we've been reporting on our gender pay gap. And we're absolutely delighted to see that figure reducing. Now, what's important though as well is it's not just about getting women into the business, but as another company touched on earlier, it's also about helping our females move up the business. So one of the ways we're looking at that, and it's been very impactful, is our Women's Network. We set that up nearly 2 years ago, and the feedback from the females in the business has been really, really positive. We've had great speakers come in or talk to us, like say Mairead McGuinness, for example. So again, it's about encouraging females to take control of their career paths and help them to drive their career path and take control. So I'm building a great camaraderie, especially coming out of the pandemic period. So the launch of the Women's Network came at a really great time. Last year, we developed our female personal protective equipment, PPE. As I mentioned, we're in construction, so it was a hazard in itself for our female cohort to be out on site wearing ill-fitting PPE. So we are now introducing it across the board for all our females going out on site. We've also introduced sanitary products, both in the offices, but out at site. And again, that's just taking one more thought process for the females away from them. So, you know, it's just one less thing, as one of my colleagues said to me, you know, Marie, it's just one less thing I need to think about when I go out on site. You know, you're not desk-based, so it just makes life a lot easier. So it's those more softer initiatives that have made a real impact on people as well. We have a returners program, and that's just over 2 years now, I'd say, in development, in use. And that's where we open our roles where possible for anyone who wants to return to the workplace. Now, it's open to males and females, but traditionally we know it tends to be the females who take the career breaks to support children or to support elderly or sick members of the family. So we've a number of people who've come back who've had up to 15 years. So you can imagine what strikes me about our returners program is the impact it makes on the females that we have hired. To date, they have all been female rehires. And it's that fear factor coming back into work. How do they do their CV? How do they go about doing an interview? And we're all teams, we're all online these days. They've never done an online interview before. So our returners program provides a very tailored approach, and we help through the recruitment process. And then we also help once they come on board. There's confidential coaching for them and for the hiring manager to understand the challenges that our returners may be going through. So we do get superb feedback on that. As mentioned, we do a lot of work externally as well. So we're very involved in STEM, again, because of the nature of our industry, we really need to drive the STEM agenda. So we're in primary, secondary, and universities on a continual basis. But also, in addition to that, then last week, I met up with an external group where we're drafting a white paper for government to, again, help government understand the challenges that companies are going through to feed that talent pipeline that's ever so crucial, not only in our sector, but look across Ireland, that talent. And then we're constantly looking at our policy documents, and as well through recruitment, you know, things like using gender neutral text for our job descriptions. There's free software available to all companies to run text through that. And then again, as mentioned earlier, we look at, you know, things like our gender balanced interview panels to make sure that there's a fairness across our recruitment. So that's a whistle-stop tour of what we've been trying to do, and happy to continue sharing this knowledge with anyone who wants to make contact with us afterwards. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Marie. It's great to hear about all that work underway and for the generous offer of further conversations. I think it's really important we continue to share. So congratulations. Sola, for the final time, if you could share with us your thoughts on what you've heard today, and in particular from Marie. Yeah,
again, amazing practical stuff that you've implemented there. But also really interesting to hear about the returning workers. So if you're a returning worker and you worked 15 years ago, the whole world's changed. The world's changed. You went in the aftermath of the financial crash. Then you've had COVID, with everything that's going on in the world. So the world of work's completely changed. Hybrid working, etc. What would have happened is that when you left, there weren't anywhere near as many women working in any industry now. And so when you've come back now, you've got managers and you've got leaders and you've got chief execs. So that would have all changed. So there is a lot of kind of complete and utter change from where we were 15 years ago. Particularly also the expectations of people have changed as well. Young people want their managers to care as much about them as individuals as they want, as managers want them to care about the business. So a whole lot of changes. So that was really interesting to hear about. Thank you very much. Really good work.
Thank you.
I think just as the clock is approaching 10:30, all that's left for me to do is to run through the thank yous. So that was an amazing session. I took, like everyone else, I took huge amounts of notes, and I usually do a kind of takeaway, do a roundup, but there were just so many. So all I can say to everybody is just rewatch the recording, which will be available shortly. So there was just so many to do. So, but I will end by just thanking a few people. So thank you to Zoe and to ESB for sponsoring the award category. Thank you to the award finalists and our winner for sharing huge amounts of the valuable work that you're doing. Thank you to Catherine, our ISL interpreter. Thank you to Solat for joining us today. And thank you to the tech team for all of your assistance behind the scenes. And finally, thank you to you for joining us, the audience. Thank you very much. And I hope that you'll pick out your own takeaways from today. As I said, the recording will be available shortly. And do contact us through the website at the Irish Centre for Diversity if you have any questions that you felt weren't covered today. And please do register for upcoming webinars in our series and to view the other recordings in the series. 10:28, we're a little bit ahead of time, so I am going to cut it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.